Hey, Writing Workshop, thank you so much for finding today's lesson folder, and thank you also for your patience with me as I adapted today's lesson to make it work a little bit better virtually. Today is kind of a break day for us. It's a break between major writing assignments. I know I had you guys submit college application essays last night. By the way, I will be available throughout the rest of this week if you're having trouble submitting your document. I do need to start writing those today, but I'll start with the ones that I know are already in. Just like we did yesterday, it's a virtual day. If you have not taken a moment to say a quick prayer for yourself or for your learning today, I recommend you pause today's video and say a quick prayer. We'll be looking back at our word choice notes in just a moment here. All right, and right now you're watching our word choice notes video. I hope this sounds a little bit familiar for you. This is something we started a few weeks ago in class as we talked about adjectives and adverbs a little bit. I do also want to cover nouns today. So we'll review adjectives and adverbs, but then talk about how to use better nouns in our writing as well. There is a practice activity I want you to complete as well. I'll demonstrate the first one for you guys at the end of this video, so be sure to watch all the way through. Little homework reminder, besides your word choice practice, just a reminder to submit your college application essay. Like yesterday, I will be available in Microsoft Teams this afternoon if you need my help with anything. It sounds like some of you had trouble submitting, so I'll see what I can do to help you this afternoon. So word choice notes right here. You're watching the video to complete our word choice notes from a few weeks ago. This will set you up for success with today's assignment, so I don't recommend skipping this video at all. I did include a digital copy of our note sheet if you don't have your paper one with you. I'm just going to click view to look at this thing together. So word choice, or vocab strategies, I've called it before. This is what we talked about a few weeks ago with adjectives and adverbs. So as a reminder, we want to work out any sort of vague or overused adjectives and adverbs out of our writing. We want to replace them with stronger, more specific, or more creative alternatives. Those are the two routes we talked about in class. One route is being specific. So for instance, if I wanted to say that someone is a good basketball player, I might want to use a more specific term for good right there. Something like talented or skilled or strong to identify how exactly he's a good basketball player. Another possible route is to use creative synonyms, which help with controlling the tone of our writing. If I wanted to say something like, I feel good today, right? I could be specific there and talk about like exactly how I'm feeling good today, or I could just use a much more creative synonym, which makes the sentence more creative and interesting in the first place. I feel wonderful today is a much better word than I feel good today. Good can mean a whole lot of different things. Wonderful is a creative synonym that controls the tone of my writing. It makes it more positive, actually. And we talked about that using good as an example. Some good alternatives for good: wonderful, delicious, if we're talking about like food being good. Exquisite, maybe the quality of an object being good. Talented, to describe a person, etc. In a full sentence, this pizza tastes good, this pizza tastes scrumptious, this pizza tastes delicious, this pizza tastes wonderful or exquisite or delightful. We also did practice with words like bad, happy, hot. Some of you use cold or old. Some people use sad or mad in that line right there. I hope you can tell just some strategies for using better options there. For bad, I think someone used the word diabolical in class to describe a bad person, or a villain to mean evil, and so on. There's a lot of different ways to use that strategy for adjectives. Adverbs work a little bit differently. There's just a small set of, I just used one, I used just. There is a small set of adverbs that are way overused in our writing. Just is probably the most overused adverb in our writing. Some good replacements for it might be merely, barely, or hardly. I just wanted one cookie. I merely wanted one cookie, for instance. Usually is somewhat overused. I like to use often as a replacement for usually. To see this in a full sentence, I just wanted to go to the concert. I merely wanted to go to the concert is a better option. Some other overused adverbs in our language are very, really, totally, and actually. Very and really mean the same thing. He is a very good athlete. He is an extremely good athlete. He is an extremely talented athlete, to replace the adjective and the adverb in that sentence. It's really cold outside. It is quite cold outside. It is rather cold outside are some better options there. The problem with totally is that it's been hijacked by surfers in the 1990s to become a slang term. Totally, dude. Some better alternatives for totally. Completely, entirely, wholly, W-H-O-L-L-Y, might be some better, more creative alternatives for totally. Actually, as well, is somewhat overused. This could be actually a way to replace it with a transition word like in fact. If I said something like the Bucks are actually a good team, the Bucks are in fact a good team, might be a better alternative for that one right there. There is one word I forgot to include on here, and it's literally. Literally is an adverb that we overuse and use incorrectly. Oftentimes you can just cut literally out of our writing entirely and we'll be fine. Otherwise, you may want to think of better alternatives for literally. I think we'll see one on our practice sentences later on. A little note, I don't know if we got to this with adjectives and adverbs in my classes before. Adjectives and adverbs are excellent for adding detail into our writing. You don't really want to overuse them in essays. Be very careful with adjectives. Obviously, if you're going to use them, use $5 ones instead of 5-cent ones. Use adverbs, notice what I did here, quite sparingly instead of very sparingly. Use them very, very, very sparingly in your writing. As Stephen King once wrote, the road to hell is paved with adverbs. So make sure that you are using adverbs very, very sparingly in your writing. In essay writing, I should say. What we didn't cover last week are nouns. Thankfully, the strategy for nouns is the same exact way that it was for adjectives. Nouns are a necessity for writing clear sentences, paragraphs, and essays. We absolutely need them in our writing. However, our language contains tens of thousands of them. There are a lot of alternatives for nouns. They range from very simple, words like man and woman and dog, to very complex ones that we want to be using better in our writing. As it is with adjectives and adverbs, our objective here is to replace vague or overused ones with specific, detailed, and creative ones, just to make our writing more readable and more interesting. As a rule, again, two routes for finding strong alternatives. One is to be specific, which helps with clarifying ideas. We'll see this with dog in just a second here. Another route is to use creative synonyms, which are great for controlling tone in our writing. Let's use dog as an example right here. If I had a sentence that said something like, I'll just say, my dog ate my homework, right? Just a really simple sentence right there. But let's use a better alternative for dog. Dog is a 5-cent word. We want a $5 word right here. One thing we could do is be specific. What kind of dog is it, right? My Schnauzer ate my homework. My Dachshund ate my homework. My Chihuahua ate my homework, right? Notice I capitalized the dog breed to be a proper noun right there. Another way to be specific, give the dog a name, right? My dog Lucky ate my homework. Spot ate my homework yesterday. By giving that a name, that only makes your sentence stronger by being more specific. Another route is to use a creative synonym. Now, I want to use this as an example for tone in our writing. This goes back to the idea of connotation in our language. Maybe something you learned in English 1, English 2. There are words that have positive connotations. There are words that have negative connotations. Let's say I want to go positive with my dog ate my homework, right? My puppy ate my homework. Puppy is a much more positive term. Maybe it gives us this cute connotation to it. It makes us think of something a little more adorable and positive. My mutt ate my homework, right? The word mutt's a little darker, a little bit more negative of a word right there. And that controls the tone of my sentence. If I want my sentence to be more positive, my puppy ate my homework. If I want it to be a little more negative, that mutt over there, that pooch over there, ate my homework. Again, we can see some examples on how we can control tone with creative synonyms. And once again, my dog ate my homework. Our Doberman, happy, shredded my assignment. Notice that I gave a better verb right there and a better noun for homework as we think about replacing words in sentences to make them better. I want you maybe to pause the video and try this on your own with some other noun examples. Maybe try this with person, place, and idea. Those are just 3 different types of nouns, right? Person could be a more specific one, like a person's name. Could maybe be a person's profession, the fireman, for instance. Same thing with place, be specific or be creative. Same thing with idea, maybe try this on your own. I'll give some of my own ideas in just a moment, and then we'll move on to practice. Alright, I hope you had a chance to pause the video and try this on your own. Some examples for person that I can think of. Give that person a name. My wife's name is Sarah, right? I might replace person with a name like Sarah or Mario or Mikkel. Just give that a male or female name. Give us the last name too. Sarah Hantak is a person. Mr. Hantak is a person. Dr. Brown is a person. Dr. Martin Luther King is a person. You can be specific. We could also maybe be a little more specific along gender lines. Person could be lady if I want to make her female. Gentleman for male, and so on. Give that person a profession, a fireman, a doctor, a teacher, whatever you want to replace person with to be more specific. I gave that person over there a gift. I gave that stranger over there a gift. I gave my acquaintance a gift. I gave my friend a gift. I gave my girlfriend a gift. Again, person is super vague. We want to be specific there, or creative. For place, again, be specific. Glacier National Park is a place. Milwaukee Lutheran High School is a place. The planet Jupiter is a place. Place is incredibly vague. We want to be more specific there on what place we're describing. Some maybe better creative alternatives for place: location, area, spot. Even could be a better replacement there. It all depends on what you're writing. Idea is incredibly vague. Ideas can be small, or they can be super huge, right? I came up with an idea yesterday. I came up with a concept yesterday. Concept might be a better word. Or you could be specific, right? Idea could be a full religion like Christianity. An idea could be a philosophy. I just want you to practice getting some alternatives down, just so that when you're writing your own writing, you have an eye out for vague nouns that could be replaced with more specific or more creative words. The most important note of all, and the biggest noun that I want you to get rid of in your writing, is the word thing. The word thing is the vaguest, most overused word in all of English writing, and here's the reason why. I want you to think for a second. Come up with a definition for the word thing that does not use the word thing in your definition. Doesn't even matter how long you pause that video, because there's no way you came up with an adequate definition for the word thing. The problem with thing is that it works as a placeholder in conversation. We always use the word thing to represent a more specific noun that's being discussed. It's a word that we use for the sake of ease. It might work in conversation. In writing, we always want to replace it with something more specific. In general, when you're writing essays, avoid thing as much as possible. Replace it with more specific alternatives. This would also include the other forms of thing, so the words like anything, everything, nothing, and something. There are times where you have to use those words, but as much as possible, you want to replace the forms of thing with more specific nouns, just for the sake of clarity in your writing. I've jabbered enough. Let's get some practice with this, because that's a more valuable way to learn these things anyway. Let's go back out to our virtual lesson. And go ahead and click on Word Choice Practice. Now this is a OneDrive assignment, so it'll create a document for you to fill in. I don't want to impact your document by changing it here, so what I'm going to do is pull it up in Word Choice Practice. As it says, the following 10 sentences all contain weak, vague, or otherwise unclear words. You don't have to mess with verbs so much, just looking at you to change adjectives, adverbs, and/or nouns. It does say please rewrite these sentences using better word choice. Now I just want to look at number one. Mr. Kirsch is a cool guy right there. So two problematic words right there. We've got cool, which is a vague adjective, and guy, which is a vague noun. Let's replace those and make this sentence much more interesting. I'll get rid of the lines. Let's start with just Mr. Kirsch is. I don't have to change that. Let's see, I want to replace cool and guy. What if we said something like, let's change maybe cool to inspiring, and inspiring. So for guy right there, I could replace that with just a much better word for guy, just any male, or I could be specific. I think I'll be specific right here. What's his role? He's a principal, right? Mr. Kirsch is an inspiring principal. Principal, because the principal is your friend, your pal. PLE, principal, would be like a rule. Mr. Kirsch is an inspiring principal is a much better sentence than just Mr. Kirsch is a cool guy, as an example right there. Feel free to use my example there if you want for your own, or replace it with your own. I want you to notice that there's the same for other sentences. We've got Antarctica is very cold. The food literally burned my mouth, we'll look at in just a moment here. The Beatles are actually a good band. Domingo is mean and he does bad things. The big dog chased the little cat. Something smells bad in this place. That's a really vague sentence. Your clothes are really pretty. I gave the nice person some stuff. And number 10, that animal totally just took my snacks. I want you to have fun and be creative as you write your own sentences here. But the last one I want to look at real quick is number 3. The food literally burned my mouth. I totally forgot. There I am using totally. Notice how deeply ingrained these vague adverbs are in our language. I forgot to include literally on our notes, but let's talk about that. Literally is a word that we overuse in our language. There's really 2 options for what we can do with literally. One thing we can do is just get rid of it. The food burned my mouth and the food literally burned my mouth mean the same exact thing. Literally is a pointless word in that sentence. Otherwise, we might want to replace literally with a stronger adverb. Just something more interesting. Something like, the food... What if I said something like, completely burned my mouth? It's spelled completely. Completely burned my mouth. Although completely and literally don't mean exactly the same thing, literally was meaningless in that sentence in the first place. They're just replacing it with a better adverb, made the sentence more interesting. Entirely could work there. I could even say something like wickedly burn my mouth, right? Just to add a little bit of spice into that sentence. Or again, you can just get rid of it. That is an option with some of these adverbs in this sentence. Just get rid of them. Sometimes they're just meaningless with the way that they've been placed into these sentences. I have talked long enough. I want to give you some time to work through this assignment. Please note, I think I gave it a slightly longer deadline. I set it to be due by the end of our block day tomorrow. We'll be using our block day just to barely start our next writing project. The key word is start. We'll have some longer deadlines with that to compensate. You guys have been great. Thank you for listening today. I'm excited to read your word choice practices as they come in over these next few days. Again, please hit me up in Microsoft Teams if you need any help this afternoon.